Here we go. There's three of us here, but what we're talking about is the best on-screen duos. I don't know who people would pick from us three. The best on-screen duos. Now, when this first came up, the best on-screen duos ever in movies, I don't know if TV's in there. I'll let you guys tell me, but I'm going with movies best on-screen duos because I think that's the way to do it right now. If it's the best on-screen duos, maybe it does include TV. Who knows? I think this is really interesting because it could be the characters, could be the people playing the characters, and you only have four, and there's a lot of them in history, Tommy. There's a lot of them.
Oh, man, we got a lot of duos tonight. We're going to get into a lot of fun couples, fun pairing, odd companions together to fight. I can't wait for it, and we can't wait to hear what your duos are, so drop them down in the comments, and let's get it popping.
Let's get it popping, D. I mean, you're right there. You came up with this duo thing, so why don't you just start us off with your best duo?
De Niro and Pacino, Godfather 2, Heat.
I like it.
You know, and to be honest with you, Heat's the only time they were actually on screen together.
No, but I think one. A new one.
Well, I mean, Godfather 2, well, a new one, but you know, the iconic.
We don't count that one. Yeah, we don't count that one. No.
So, if you're asking me, man, I think that pairing is going to be on all of our Rushmore lists. So, I got to go with De Niro and Pacino.
Yeah, and you're talking two of the greatest actors to ever live. I think everybody was like really waiting when they heard they were in Heat together and they were going to have a scene together. It was like, you know, Ali, Frazier. Like people were like, oh my God, they're going to be in a scene together. And people were so excited about it because in Godfather, they don't actually act together. So Heat, we got them to act together, which is, and it's and obviously, you know, one of the most iconic scenes in the film. What do you think, Tommy?
I love that pick. And yeah, man, I mean, talk about two heavyweights on screen. Whew.
My on-screen duos, I kind of go with like people who I feel I'm trying to keep it more modern. I don't want to go into my old habit of my old school films because a lot of people don't know about, because there are some great ones that I have in my head that I go into the history of it. But I am going to, this might be old for some people, and that's okay because it's super iconic. They made two of the greatest films ever made. Paul Newman, Robert Redford, right? It's hard to think about one without the other, right? Butch Cassidy, Sundance Kid, The Sting, and just all in, you know, I mean, that's arguably, you know, a lot of people would say that's their best films individually. Obviously, they were together for it. They had such an incredible relationship. And I think they really uplifted each other's games, and they really are the quintessential kind of Hollywood pair back then. So I would hope that everybody has seen Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, and I would hope that everybody has seen The Sting. But if you haven't, go get yourself some Paul Newman and Robert Redford, because not just are they as handsome as the day is long, they are the best, two of the best actors to ever do it. So that's my first.
I love it.
That's a great pick right there. And I'm going to kind of follow suit with an old school pair to kick things off on my pick. And that is Jack Lemmon and Walter Matthau together as both the Odd Couple, of course, which is just as classic as it comes. And man, I love grumpier old men.
Me too.
Grumpy old men and grumpier old men. Classic films, a lot of fun. Those are just two Hollywood, I mean, they're late great Hollywood icons, and you get to see them together as young men, and they get to do it again as old timers. So that's my pick.
And then you get Mickey. Mickey's in the Grumpy Old Men's. He's like the older,
Burgess
the grumpier. Burgess is the grumpier old man.
That's Walter Matthau's father, I think. In the movie.
Yeah, he's talking about the Suz each. He's unbelievable. What an unbelievable pairing that is. And you know, I mean, they're right. You can't really think about one without the other. And that's how you know it's a really good pairing, even if they've only done 2, 3, 4 things together. So yeah, I love that. All right, D, what do you got? Second one.
Man, my second one, I gotta go with Mr. Murtaugh, Detective Murtaugh, Detective Riggs, Danny Glover, Mel Gibson, Lethal Weapon.
Yeah, I mean,
man, that's a great pick.
It's so
it's
good.
really good.
I mean, they made that movie. Talk about coming out of nowhere. Even though there was Road Warrior and Danny had his stuff, but like the pairing of those two was outrageous.
Yeah, their chemistry on screen just comes off screen like when you're watching those movies. I mean, I've watched all of my favorites are 1 and 2, but I mean 3 and 4 is they're good movies too, man.
When did Pesci get involved? 3?
Second one. Yeah,
the second
one, I believe.
2, and then he was in 3 significantly as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, what a great pairing. And what's always been interesting to me about that pairing, Murtaugh, obviously Danny Glover was like about to retire, and he was always positioned as so much older. But like
it's
really,
like 42.
42 years older than Mel. Like, was he that much older than Mel? Come on.
Somebody said recently there was like some meme that said he was 42 in the movie. And he kept talking about how old he was.
I'm too old for this shit.
Too old for this shit.
And man, you go back and watch that movie, man. It still holds up. It's a lot of fun, man. It's a great movie to just throw on. I usually watch it every Christmas. That and Die Hard, I consider both Christmas movies. So it's about that time.
I'll go with my second one. Just because I thought it's such an incredible pairing. They've done it a few times. There's obviously 2 that I think really spotlight their togetherness and absolute hilarity, and that's Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly together.
Man. So good,
right?
Hilarious, bro.
And just their shake and bake, and the way they play off each other. Step Brothers is obviously up there in all time comedies, but it doesn't work unless they work, right? Because it's nothing like it's what they're doing, it's their improv ability, it's their way to not jump on each other, it's their timing. And John's doing like heavy dramatic stuff and doing that, and I think it's very similar to kind of what went on with Dumb and Dumber years before, right? Where it's got that the Will Ferrell type, which is just wild and can do anything. And then you got like John, but I thought John really, he's just hilarious in those movies. So that's my 2. I would watch them in anything. They can do Catalina Wine Mixer. They can do anything and I would watch it. Yeah.
Boats and hoes, bro.
Boats and hoes.
So cool. We always talk about the quotability factor, and you put those 2 guys together, you're gonna get some quotable shit.
Yeah, in like 2 seconds, we just had 4 quotes, and that's not even like the main ones. Yeah, it's unbelievable. All right, Tommy, what do you got?
All right, so for number 2, I am going to go with this pairing. Really, they're only known for one major franchise, but man, this was a big one for me growing up. I'm gonna go with Will Smith and Martin Lawrence.
Great.
Oh yeah. Oh man, great
call.
Those
guys together, man. Great I love Bad Boys. I always loved that franchise. It's just a fun, straight up action adventure kind of fun stuff. Cop stories, bad guys. I've always just really enjoyed those movies. I think the 2 of those guys together are great. A lot of comedy there, but they just play off each other really well. They probably
chemistry.
Their life.
Chemistry. You know what? I don't know if they do, but it's chemistry at the highest level. Like that's pure chemistry, right? Like the way, again, I think what on-screen chemistry is the differences make them complete, right? Because they are so different. And it's kind of what everyone we just said, if you're talking about.
I believe that they're really that close for some reason,
I would think they are because their chemistry is absolutely amazing.
How many Bad Boys is it? They've got 3,
4?
right? 4? I know they're making a new one coming.
New one's 4th, maybe.
Yeah. Great franchise, man.
Great franchise. What do you got?
Man, my 3rd pick. I got to go old school, man, and these guys are way ahead of their time, and that is Mr. Gene Wilder and Mr. Richard Pryor.
Nice.
Some of the best comedies of all time.
Stir Crazy. I grew up on Stir Crazy.
Stir Crazy, bro. Stir Crazy was so good.
I grew up on that movie.
Hear No Evil, See No Evil.
Yeah.
I mean, like
Silver Streak, I think.
Silver Streak, Silver Streak, yep. Yeah, so like
totally different human beings. Totally different. I read Gene's book and couldn't be more different. watch their interviews together. Richard was living like a firecracker, wild man. Gene is like, at home cooking dinner, like just so different. But again, their chemistry of how to play off each other. I think that's what made it so iconic with them too. And I don't know if they hung out. Yeah. I mean, it's the whole 80s, right? Late 70s, the entire 80s, through the 80s. And they're both hitting it from their time together. Their stuff together is what blew them both up.
Yeah.
And Gene said in the book, he's like, we didn't talk much outside of set. But when they were on set, just boom, there it is. And I think that's even cooler, right? That they just have that natural chemistry.
It's not something you can be taught. It's just something you have innate between the two, two parties.
I got to tell you and sorry to interrupt, Tommy. I got to tell you, as someone who's felt it only like once or twice, maybe 3 times in my career, it's unexplainable. It's so easy. And then there's ones where it's like literally impossible. And you're like, no matter what we do, this isn't going to seem right. So I hope they have a good editor. But then there's just ones where it just works. It's hard to explain.
Just also shows off like, the ability and the talent of like really great actors, because it takes a little bit of the romance out of it. Like we'd all like to think that these actors are going to go have dinner together, and then they're going to go to the movies, and their families are all going to, have a picnic. And it's like, nah, I'll see you at work, buddy.
See you at work.
Yeah.
See you at work. Yeah, listen, I'm gonna jump on another one here that and I know you kind of already said one of the guys, but I think that there's there's a better chemistry here that I just want to get out there.
Yeah. I'm with you.
I think if you're talking about like pure chemistry of two people acting, it's very hard for me to leave this conversation without saying De Niro and Pesci. I think that those two have something that is so special when they're together. Obviously, 2 of the greatest films ever made only work not because just of Marty. It works because of what they're doing together in their moments. Super opposites, super like energy opposites, but man, does it work. And they've done it a bunch. I mean, Raging Bull is maybe the only time where the energies changed, where Jake was crazier, where De Niro Bobby's character was hey,
come on, Larry.
Larry
Someone just did a run. They just did a run in, man.
A run in the ring. But that was the only one where Joe was more like calmer than where the other ones, Joe's really the wild man and De Niro's the more grounded one. So I just can't. I couldn't in good conscience leave here without saying that.
No. You know what? I mean, I love that call, and I gotta say it supersedes the Heat Pacino. The Pacino De Niro's more, I think, like, you're watching from a fan perspective of loving their work, but like you said, I think the chemistry's better with Pesci and De Niro.
Well, here's the crazy thing about those two guys. Like, you could put any one of those 3 films, whether it's Raging Bull, Goodfellas, or Casino, those could be on like your greatest movies of all time list, and no
top 10.
Argue. So it's like the fact that they chopped up 3 of those fucking movies together. That's insane.
That's insane.
It's hard to make. Think about this. It's hard to make one good movie. The fact that you have 3 that if anybody put them on their top 10 list of all time, nobody would bat an eye. Like if anybody said, "Oh, let me hear your 10 best movies of all time," and someone went Casino, you go, "Yeah, that makes sense."
Okay.
Well, sure, yeah, fuck, man, amazing. Goodfellas, of course. Who wouldn't? Those like wouldn't even bat an eye. That's crazy when you think about it. That they have 3 together, and they're not in it for a moment. They're 3 that they're the 2 leads of them.
Yeah.
Big time.
Yeah.
It's cool. All right, Tommy, what do you got?
Okay, so I am going to go with this pair only, to my knowledge, did 1 movie together, but it's as iconic as they come. I'm going to go with Gina Davis and Susan Sarandon.
Ah, man, great call.
Thelma and Louise, baby.
The ultimate.
Great call, man.
People use that. They use that as like as a thing to tell people, oh, you like Thelma and Louise, like you're that much of a duo.
Yeah, exactly. It's become to the point where even if you've never seen that movie before, you probably know that Thelma and Louise are like two people put together. It's a goddamn duo. It's exactly what we're talking about here today on the show.
Yeah, and they are, I mean, they were so good, and you know, such a great movie, by the way, young Brad Pitt and the hand holding at the end and all that. But like that's one that took the world by storm, and their chemistry just became synonymous with two people who are like two peas in a pod. That's kind of cool, right? It's kind of cool.
Let's drive off a cliff together, guys.
Let's do it. Let's all hold hands. I would love that. I would go. What do you got, D?
Man, for my final call, man. I mean, I was totally thinking the Thelma and Louise one, but I got to pivot and I got to go with 48 Hours, man. Nick Nolte and Eddie Murphy, man.
Pretty great.
Like, pretty fucking great right there. You know what I mean?
Two polar opposites. Pretty great.
Two polar opposites, man. You know, you kind of had that like the Lakers Celtics thing with them, the black and white thing, especially in the early 80s. And it just played so well with each other, man. So
the sequel is almost just as good as the first.
I loved it.
Yeah, a lot of people hated it. I loved it.
Yeah,
I'll watch them do anything, you know.
Same.
And speaking of doing anything, that's for my next two, you know, my college movies that I watch more than anything. And I definitely in the comedy sector. And I think that they hit it out of the park with these two. And I pretty sure they only made two together, but maybe they made more. And that's Chris Farley and David Spade.
Nice duo.
Yeah. I mean, again, talk about opposites, that it just works, right? You're talking about the timing, the way they speak to each other, their off-camera relationship, how long they knew each other, and they just crushed it. I mean, in every way. And then, you know, when they followed up with Black Sheep, I thought it was just as great. It's just a great duo that, you know, every single scene that they were in, the way the timing worked, you know, made Chris a superstar. And I think Dave is a big part of that because of that. That's how you know the duo works.
You can tell. I mean, back to their SNL days, I've read a lot of fun behind the scenes stories of SNL, and those guys just, man, they I don't think anyone really knew each other as well as those, you know, casts did back then when it was kind of just like the Wild West on that show. And you know, back to what I said earlier, like I actually believe that David Spade and Chris Farley probably were super.
And they were. They said they were. Yeah,
you could see
they were like best friends. Yeah, they were like the closest of them all.
With all these duos we're talking about, it just shows you opposites attract, and like, you know.
Yeah, and it works. Like it work again. I think that's what makes it work. Like you don't really hear best duos with two of similar people. I mean, I guess you might say Newman and Redford were a little similar, you know, because they were both kind of Hollywood leading men's, you know. But I think Newman was a little funnier. I think he was a little more laid back, and Redford was a little more like dramatic. So I think that's why it worked. But yeah, usually it's totally opposites. Tommy, you're up.
What you got?
I'm teetering. All I can say is thank God for honorable mentions. But I'm going to swerve into a different direction. I'm going to go with, we're talking about unlikely pairings, talking about odd duos here. Opposites attract. I got to go with Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito in Twins. You know, that's about as opposite of a pairing as you can put together, and boy, that movie just exploded. And it wasn't until I watched the Arnold documentary series over the summer, I didn't realize just how financially successful Twins was, and in terms of like Arnold movies too. Like that was Arnold's movie that just got him paid, and there's a reason for that, man. That movie's just, man, it's just so easy to watch and enjoy, and I think anybody can kind of get into that one. So I'm going to go with Arnold and DeVito.
Yeah, I love that one. And if we're going to rock into honorable mentions, Steve, what do you got for an honorable mention?
Yeah, man, I got Marty and Doc Brown, Back to the Future.
Right.
And then, of course, I mean, I don't think we ever do a show without mentioning at least Rocky one time. So I got to go with Apollo and Rocky, you know?
That's a nice duo.
Yeah, that's a good duo. For me, I would go with Meg Ryan and Tom Hanks made a few movies together. I thought they had really good chemistry. Sleepless in Seattle, is a great rom-com, really up there with the beginnings of it. And then You Got Mail and all that. Those are up there as big. They had kind of taken over the world at that time. I think you have to say it just because their career is made from their duo starting back in the School Tie days, and that's Matt and Ben. Their duo of what they've done together. Obviously, Good Will Hunting is one of my favorite movies. But you're not thinking about Matt Damon without Ben Affleck, and you're not thinking about Ben Affleck without Matt Damon. They just did it again in Air. They'll go down as that Redford Newman thing, that they'll always be intrinsically linked from their story and what they've done, and coming out of Boston and winning the Oscar. And so that's an iconic duo, even though they're still both pretty young. You could see them probably when they're older doing like a Grumpier Old Men together or something. And people would love it.
People will pay to go see that.
And people will pay to go see it because there's something about those two being together. And I think that makes them an iconic.
And they have a lot of these, this thing that I think that really stands out between Affleck and Matt Damon is that they have a story and have a long history. They grew up together. They were friends growing up, where a lot of these are just like, okay, Eddie Murphy's here, Nick Nolte's here, we're going to go make a movie. And like, we don't really know each other, but the chemistry you see on screen looks like we've known each other forever, Yeah.
And I think that's with Spade and Farley, with Tommy Boy and Black Sheep. Like they did have a story together. They came up together. They did all the stuff together on SNL. Like they came up. And I think that that's true, right? Like it's even deeper with those guys, with Matt and Ben. And I just think that could add to it. But then in the case of Gene Wilder and Richard Pryor, they're known, again, intrinsically linked, and they didn't really have any past history. I don't know if Walter Matthau and Jack Lemmon did outside professionally. I'm sure they probably did. It was a different time. But that's, but they really came up together. I mean, they were like living together in apartments and stuff. And I just think that's awesome. I don't know. And just one more I'm throwing out there just because I have to, and you shouldn't have three, but Ben Stiller and Owen Wilson crush it together.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
They crush
so
it
funny.
Every time, in everything they do. Zoolander, Night at the Museum. It doesn't matter.
Night at the Museum, yeah. Night at the Museum is one of our favorites. So we watch that pretty frequently. So
Tommy, what you got,
Tommy?
All right, I'm gonna rattle these out quick. I'm gonna go really old school with this one. I'm gonna go with Dean Martin. I'm gonna go with Martin and Lewis, Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis on this one. A lot of classics, and what I like about that duo is it's got a little bit of a kind of a unique backstory because that duo had a split. They made all these great movies in the 50s, and then they
split.
Some kind of mysterious beef went down that, like, to this day, nobody really knows exactly what happened.
At the height, they just stopped at the height.
Yeah, at the height of making films together, and again, awkward pairing. Yet Jerry Lewis was kind of the geek, and Dean Martin was the handsome singer, and just they split up. That's going to be a movie someday. That would be a cool movie a movie about their kind of relationship and whatever happened. But it is true, Frank Sinatra got them back together in the 70s on some talk show or TV show. So they died kind of friendly, which is nice at least. And then my other pairing is I got to go with our boys from the Ocean's 11 crew. I got to go with George Clooney and Brad Pitt. You put two of the sexiest men alive together.
You're gonna get fireworks.
You're gonna be all right with that duo right there. And growing up, those were just like two of the coolest guys that you could kind of see together. It's just like this. It's kind of cool to see them share the screen, both being such icons, and what we consider like. These are like magazine idol type guys.
Agreed.
There's the duos, and they're gonna get mad at you, Tommy, for not saying Cheech and Chong.
Oh,
they're gonna get mad at you for that one.
For Cheech.
How did we miss that one?
How do you miss up Cheech and Chong? They made movies.
Crockett and Tubbs.
Chewbacca and Han Solo. Listen, there's a lot of them.
Chewbacca and Han Solo.
Come on. These are duos, right? C-3PO and R2-D2.
Facts, this is all the kind of stuff that we, could be talking about on Patreon. So
which we're going right now. We're going there.
Yeah, go on down and in our description, you can see that we have a link to our Patreon. You can come and support it, brother.
Yeah, let's go. Join the Patreon. Get on over there and get some duos and get some other Rushmore stuff in there. There's a lot going on there. There's cat videos and stuff. Get in there.
If you haven't yet, make sure you subscribe on our YouTube channel. Please.
Gotta subscribe.
Thanks for the love.
Big thing. We love it. And yeah, tell us your duos. And don't say Tommy and D. All right, y'all. If you made it this far, we appreciate you. Thank you so much. You know the deal. Ring the notification, subscribe, like, share with your friends, and talk to you soon. All right.